It's beneficial to us as the contractor. It's beneficial to have a detailed scope of work for your guys that are on site, your employees, your lead carpenter, your subs. You kind of have that job site book that's got all those detailed notes in there. So you're not fielding 100 phone calls. There's no surprise invoices that you're giving that client.
But I did get to go to my favorite coffee shop today. So fully caffeinated. Yes, I am. How are you doing today, Todd?
Doing good.
Wonderful day in the neighborhood.
It is. Yeah. Are we rolling?
So,
are we on?
We're rolling. We're on. We're going, baby.
Okay. All right.
Hey, look at you. You got an actual Top Drawer Carpentry t-shirt on. Whoa, I didn't even know you had swag.
I've had these for like 4 years. 5 years.
Never seen them before.
One shirt I've had for like 5 years.
Uh-huh. I got sweatshirts. I've always seen your local lumberyard t-shirts. Never seen you actually wear your own t-shirts.
Yeah, their shirts are nicer. So yeah.
Figures.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got t-shirts, sweatshirts, I got underwear,
how's your work?
I got socks, all kinds of stuff.
Wait, you got a Top Drawer Carpentry underwear?
Sure do.
You got your name across your buttocks there? And your underwear?
Gotta represent.
All right, man. How's your week been?
Pretty good. It's a busy week, but good busy.
Okay.
So a few projects coming through that we've been waiting on permits, and we had 2 permits that came in the end of last week. So we're rolling on these, and another project that we were awarded. So going to go meet with them and get that signed off on, and a couple other leads, walk through a couple of projects. It's just, it's been a pretty crazy 3 days. So good.
Nice. Congratulations on the new job project you got.
Thank you.
Yeah. Congrats.
Yeah. Met a new interior designer yesterday that was referred to me by a cabinet shop that I work with. She was looking for a good, reliable contractor, and for some reason they gave her my name. I don't know.
Oh, that was a mistake.
They must not know very many contractors, but whatever. So I met with her yesterday, and she's kind of, wet behind the ears, as they say. She's just pretty new to this game. So that kind of brought up the topic. I thought maybe we should talk about just developing a scope of work, when you're going to walk through a project. She had a very, very preliminary, I can't even use the word design because there wasn't any design. It was just this, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. So I was just like, okay. So for instance, one of these was just a fireplace wall. They have this really big cathedral ceiling, really nice, good sized family room. And they have this, if you pay any attention to scale, just this rinky dink, so small firebox with just like 4-inch by 2-inch tile border going around it. And that's it. And then you have these cascading high cathedral ceilings above it. So it was just, so I was like, okay, well, yeah. So what do we want to do? And she's like, well, we want to redo this. And I'm like, yeah, with what? Like, do you want to fill this whole wall with built-in cabinets and then do like a new stone hearth and a nice slab stone surrounds? Do you want to take that stone from the floor all the way to the ceiling? Are we adding lighting? Do you want sconces flanking this fireplace? She goes, oh, I love sconces. That's nice that you love sconces. Do we want to put sconces in? Because do you want to just give me a blank check? I'm not quite sure what you want me to tell you here. She's very sweet, and you could see she was very genuine, and she's just new to this. So, and this is the first time we've walked through a project. So I try to help. We're getting to be the old timers here. We've been doing this a long time. And the potential client she started asking me a lot more questions than the designer, because it was fairly obvious I was giving more pertinent, valuable information. And so she said, well, what do we think, like, price wise? And I said, I can't give you a price for anything right now. And she's like, no. And I'm like, no, I need some sort of details, like something. I was like, even just a jumping off point. Give me a general design, and more importantly, let's put together a scope of work. So this is where I figured, you know what? We haven't just talked about just introductory developing that scope of work and how that kind of starts and the benefit to that across the board, right? It's beneficial to us as the contractor. It's beneficial to have a detailed scope of work for your guys that are on site, your employees, your lead carpenter, your subs. You kind of have that job site book that's got all those detailed notes in there. So you're not fielding 100 phone calls. There's no surprise invoices that you're giving that client. So that was kind of what I thought we could just kind of shoot the shit about today.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, let's just jump into it then. We'll talk about scope of work. But here we go again, another week of the Renovation Situation podcast where we pull back the layers of that complex modeling industry. So grab your beverage of choice. Let's do this. I am Joe. That's the Todd stir over there in the Midwest. And we're talking about developing a scope of work. Sounds like Todd ran into a newbie designer that had no idea the importance of scope of work for us, for her, for her client, for everyone involved. So let's get into it. Where do we want to start with this? I think let's just start by first talking about like why we want a scope of work, right?
Sure.
A scope of, or maybe even defining what a scope of work is. Let's start there. Like a scope of work is simply just words on a paper, right? Boom, done. All right. So a scope of work is describing, I'm just winging it here, describing what's included, what's not included in the project.
Yeah.
Basically, from start to finish.
That's the gist of it. Yeah.
That's the gist all in. Yeah. And it could be as detailed as you want it to be. And I would argue that more detail, the better.
Yes.
Also is it's not only what's included, but also kind of spells out what's not included as well. If done right, that scope of work could be what you actually turn around and use for your guys in the field, and they can just work off of that.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of what a scope of work is. It's describing in detail exactly what's included and how it's going to get, maybe not exactly how, but it's going to describe at least maybe the materials that are being used, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's I had a note, just details, all capital letters. And that's
details, all capital letters.
Yeah. The more detailed that is, the better off everybody is. And I think that, so from my perspective, most of the time I would organize a scope of work by trade. So you're just going to have electrical, plumbing, whatever, and then have bullet points under each one of those most of the time, unless it's something like this project I walked through yesterday where it was kind of all over the place. It was just different rooms. It wasn't just a remodel of a kitchen or something like that. It was, we want to paint the basement. We want to do a wet bar in the loft. We want to do this. We want to do that. So it was hodgepodge all over. So it's like someone needs to organize that. Let's do this room by room. What trades are involved in each room, and then develop that scope of work for each one of those trades per room. And like to your point, let's get detailed about it. Not just paint the walls. Are we cleaning the walls? Are the walls filthy and old and haven't been painted in 30 years? Is there patchwork that needs to be done? Is there, and then what kind of paints are you even using? Are you priming before you paint? Are you just painting? Are you using the Dutch Boy on sale paint at Menards? Or are you going to go get legitimate Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams paint and do a nice quality paint job? And that's also going to help you from a sales perspective up front. Because if they're comparing apples to apples and have proposals right next to each other side by side, and then one proposal says, oh, paint walls, and the proposal next to it says, clean, patch, repair, prime, and apply 2 coats of Benjamin Moore Aura to the walls, who looks more professional?
Yeah. Well, okay. So we defined what a scope of work is very loosely, and maybe as we go through this, describing will help define. But let's ask the question, why do we want a scope of work? I'm going to put out there that it's going to manage everyone's expectations by having a very clear scope of work. I think it's going to clear the responsibilities. Homeowners want to know what they're responsible for too, right? And also clear responsibilities for each trade. And then also maybe outline any deliverables that possibly may or may not be needed. It's going to prevent scope creep, maybe any disputes that you might have later down the road with the homeowner or even your trade partners. If it's well defined, I think that's going to help out anything that you end up with as far as disputes on who's responsible for what. Transparency, include what's included, what's not included, as opposed to like your example, we're going to paint the wall and that's your scope. So, okay, well, where does the line end, right? Because, well, why didn't you fill all the holes? We didn't say we were filling holes. We just said we were painting the wall. Okay, but you should be filling the holes. Well, it doesn't say that specifically. You can see how this can get really nitty gritty, right? So I just think overall you'll have less misunderstandings.
Yes.
So, okay, so what say you? I mean,
I agree.
Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I like that you said the client wants to know what they're responsible for, right? So, for instance, something like this where you're going to be all over the house, potentially, that's a lot of furniture that needs to be moved. Who's moving that furniture, if at all? Who's covering that furniture? Paintings coming off the wall, are those getting taken down and safely stored somewhere? And then are we rehanging those? Or are you changing the paintings on the wall and we're patching those nail holes and you're going to have someone else come in and do that later? Those little details matter, right? Because you start that project and then you get into a bind where you show up and it's like, you guys didn't move all your furniture. And you're like, you're not moving the furniture? It's like, nope. So that's not a great start to a project.
Right. So that might be, those are some examples of why you would want.
Yes. Just clarity
and
for everybody.
The clients should want to see this as well. I mean, it's not just us saying that we want a scope of work. And in your example in the beginning why we're on this topic, the designer should want to have a scope of work as well, be able to articulate what the project is so we can get more accurate information for your client.
Yes.
Like, how much is this going to cost? That kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's it, depending, how you want to operate. Like, to me, most of the times if I'm working with a designer who's been doing this for a little while, they've usually already developed a pretty good scope of work to start off of. This is what we're doing. This is what we're not doing. And they have a pretty good idea as to budget. But if I'm the first one walking in, depending on how you want to look at that, do you want to spend any time on a scope of work and then develop a budget? Or do you want to give them some sort of rough estimate or see what they're thinking, how much they want to spend, and then develop a scope of work based off of that? But depending how you want to play that, it's just an integral part of the whole process, just the upfront process.
Yeah. So when I'm creating my scope of work, it's literally just in Word, and it's going to be broken out by industry, right? That's how I do mine. You could break it out by room. Let's say you're doing a whole house remodel. You could most definitely break it out by room. When I'm doing a whole house remodel, I still have it broken out by industry. So by industry, I mean that we're breaking out like demo, and then I'm listing in bullet form and in detail exactly what the demo section is going to do and not do, right? And then we go down to like framing, electric, plumbing, right? Each one of those is its own section with bullet points. That's it. Now, if there's multiple rooms, let's say I'm doing a whole house remodel, it's going to be demo, and then it's going to be under demo, it's going to be bathroom, master bathroom, kitchen, and each one of those sub bullet points, subcategories is going to have bullet points under what's being demoed in the kitchen. Okay, now we have master bathroom, what's being demoed in the master bathroom, and it's going to be broken out like that. I think if you pulled back and you looked at my sheet of paper, it would look more like an outline. because it's just bullet pointed. And I do that on purpose so it's really easy for the client to skim through and walk through, as opposed to having it in big giant paragraph form.
Yes.
I don't like that, so I make mine in bullet parts. How do you do yours?
I do the
How
same.
do you?
I do the
Do the
same.
same. Okay.
All bullet
Interesting.
pointed, just much easier to read. And it's easier for the guys in the field, so they're not reading through the
100%.
whole thing and having to go 3/4 of the way down the page to find what they're looking for. To your point, they can just look and say, oh, okay, demo, kitchen, bam, bam, bam. And then they can even just check those right in front of it, right? Check, this is done, check, that's done, and just makes it nice checks and balances from start to finish.
That's a great point. And I want to reiterate something that I said earlier was my scope of work is also what I give to my subs, like the section, like say if it's the demo section's being given to them, right? So it's my work order as well. So I do it in a very detailed way and also worded in a way where I'm not only talking to the homeowner, but I'm also talking to my trade partners and or employees or whoever. This is going to be what I'm presenting to my trade partner as well. I do that for a handful of reasons, but honestly, it's because I don't want to have to create another work order separately.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I feel as though having these details in the contract and in front of the homeowner brings a level of transparency that I think most of my clients, who are usually very detail oriented, tend to like.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I think that's
I think it saves a lot of time for me to be able to just have one document to work off of. And also it's my scope of work for the client. So if done correctly, it saves you some time, in my opinion.
And again, it works great from a sales standpoint, not just, I know I mentioned painting, but a similar thing. Again, yesterday I'm walking through this project and they want to retile a powder room floor. It's got an old slate tile and they just don't like the look of it. They don't like cleaning it. It's just a pain in the butt. We're looking for something a little newer. So I said, okay, 6x6 powder room, no big deal. I lifted up the vent to see what the backing was underneath the tile, and it was just a hardy backer over plywood. So I said, okay, it's easy enough to take up, and as long as that subfloor is in good condition, we'll put down a new anti-crack membrane. But you know what we're going to use. We've mentioned this 1,000 times. And that gives you the opportunity to put that in your scope of work and then explain to them why you're using that product, right? And then it's same things. Whoever your competitor might be, if there is a competitor who's giving a bid as well, if they're just putting down, tile the bathroom floor, are you just going to tile on top of that subfloor, that plywood subfloor, or are you putting down an anti-crack membrane? So the more detailed you are, the more professional it looks, the better it is for the client, the better it is for you, the better it is for your guys, your subs, everybody.
100%.
Yeah.
Where I want to go from here, I think, is I want to keep on why we started this topic, which was this newbie designer is having a hard time giving you enough information, right? So let's dive in a little bit about how do you develop a scope of work, right? Like where do I start? And it's going to be different for a designer as it's going to be for a general contractor or if you're just a plumber. But I think in the end, I mean, take from what you will, like tidbits of how I do it or how Todd does it, and then maybe you can take what works for you. But I wanted to go into how do you develop that scope of work. And for us, and this is kind of funny because when I was thinking about this, when you mentioned it 18 minutes ago, I was thinking in my head, well, like I rely a lot on the designer to give me the information so then I can create that scope of work. Mm-hmm. So I almost feel like she might not be creating the actual scope of work line by line the way we do, right? She's not going to, I've never received one from a designer that's breaking out what needs to be done, right? That's not their job. They don't necessarily need to know, although it would be really great if they did, what exactly the demo needed to be and what exactly the framing, right? That's not their expertise. But if I'm developing that type of scope of work, I'm going to the designer for, and this is where I start. I have no scope of work, no piece of paper, nothing started. I'm looking for schematics, elevations, renderings, selections. Schematics, elevations, renderings, selections. Those all are coming from the designer, in my opinion. If you're running this way, right? If you are using a designer, if you're not using a designer, then you're creating these on your own.
Yeah, someone's got to design it.
You are the designer, right? You've got to create before you even be able to create a scope of work. So we can't make a scope of work without this information. So when she pulls you on the job site, and this is the first time you're there, and she doesn't have schematics, elevations, renderings, she doesn't have any selections for you. So it's really, really in the beginning, you have no idea what the scope of work is. And she doesn't either. But she does know that she likes pendants and sconces. So we're going to put those. We're going to have those somewhere. Not sure where or how many.
Right. I love sconces. Cool. It's awesome.
So really, when we are talking about a scope of work in terms of the designer, I think what the designer's doing, and I keep saying she, but it could be he, they are creating the ingredients for us to create the scope of work. I'm not looking for a scope of work in totality from my designer, but I am looking for all the ingredients from them to which then I could put a scope of work together. And that also means that
good way of putting it. Yeah.
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 So,
that's a good way of putting it.
So from there, okay, I'm going to walk through this and then I'm going to ask you how you walk through yours. But now I have those ingredients and now I can make a rough scope of work. This is not a final. And I'll tell you, there's one more step. So I make a rough scope of work, meaning based off of the paper, those 4 ingredients, I can look at everything based off of all that. I am now breaking out each individual industry and I'm creating that outline. It is rough and I'm going to miss stuff, but I'm going to try to be as detailed as I can be. But this is not for the client yet. This is roughly for your trade partners, because what's going to happen next is we're going to have a trade open house. So we're going to ask the trade people to walk through the house, right? So if I'm hiring a plumber, I want that plumber on site so he can see what he's getting himself into. And same for every other industry that I have already identified that we need.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's why it's rough, because I need input from my trade partners, because this is a collaboration and I want to make sure that they might have a better idea or they might have another way of doing things that might be better or worse. Who knows? But that's why we also want selections there, because we want to know if we're doing a marble floor or what kind of weirdness we're working with. I think the point that I'm trying to make is we have that walkthrough and the trade partners give me some collaboration and input and we go from there, to which then I could write the actual scope of work for not only like we said earlier, for not only for the client, the contract, but also for my work order later down the road. And that's all ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you could.
How you do it.
So you could have just recorded what you just said and played that yesterday, because that's almost exactly what I said to the client yesterday. It's almost exactly what I said to him yesterday. I was like, look, all I can do right now is put together a rough scope of work. We can come back through and walk through with our subs, whoever we need for the project, but you're going to have to fill in some details. Like, I'm not saying you have to pick the exact tile right now, but we need at least a rough idea, like what we're doing here as far as, are we going to use tile? Are we using slab stone around the fireplace? Like, do we want this, like, again, going floor to ceiling or just a nice surround with a mantle? Like, I could do a number of things. So I said, look at my house profile, look at my website, You can go on Instagram if you want. I have pictures all over the place. We've done a whole bunch of fireplace surrounds, built-in cabinetry, all kinds of stuff. So if there's something that catches your eye or something that you think you like, even on the house in general, you can send that to me. And that at least gives us just a starting point. It's just a jumping off point. And then I can look and say, okay, if we're going to do cabinets flanking this fireplace, it's going to put you in this ballpark. If we're not doing any cabinets and just want to do some nice tile work, it's going to put you in this ballpark. And then after that, then you can hone in on it and pick, however nice of slab stone or tile you want. Because if you're going to go get ceramic tile, first off, I probably don't want to do it. But if you're going to get ceramic tile or you're going to get leathered Taj Mahal quartzite, the price is going to be a little bit different, So, yeah, it was just, I had to bite my tongue pretty hard yesterday a couple of times because I'm just thinking, like, how on earth would you expect me to give you any sort of, like, rough price on the spot for all this that we just went through? And I have no idea what you want it to look like. And it was the same thing with a wet bar. They wanted to do a wet bar, but had I was like big oak Irish bar, like that kind of bar. She's like, no, more modern. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Stainless steel, stone. I don't know. Do you want like built-in lighting panels behind porcelain? We could do all kinds of stuff, but give me something to go on here. I'm happy to fill in the blanks of scope of work. Like you had said, you'd put it really well. Just they give you the ingredients and then you're putting it all together, right? That's our job, is to put that whole project together, make sure it's a nice, neat, really wrapped little package, and we have everything we need inside that package. But if we don't have anything to put in there, I can put a nice bow on a box for you, but if it's empty, I'm losing the analogy here, but you get the point.
Digging yourself a hole there, buddy.
Yeah, but there's got to be something. It's got to be something to go on. So, yeah, as I said, she'll learn. She'll learn. We all started out not knowing how to walk onto a project, really. So
that's true. We all started somewhere, right? And we're not. I mean, we're kind of picking on her, but really, we all started somewhere, and
absolutely.
It may be just a matter of you explaining to her the things that you need,
right,
to put it together. And it sounds to me as though it's more of a tire kicker situation, and she's just trying to use you as, a budget, get a budget number together.
Could be.
And
could be.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's like going to an architect and asking them how much the project's going to cost.
Right.
They don't know.
Yeah.
But they most certainly could draw a nice, pretty picture for you. But don't ask them how much it's going to cost. They're not the ones that put that dollar amounts together. But man, everybody asks them, and I feel bad for them because they want to give them an answer too, and they need to be able to draw to the budget.
Yeah.
And it's just like every designer out there I know, they always have the ability to design well above the budget. So that's why we always have to talk about money early and often throughout this whole process.
Yes. If you give them
scope
no parameters,
of work,
they will run with it and just keep drawing pretty pictures.
Yeah. Scope of work. I don't know if I got much more to say about scope of work. It's just letters on a page, everybody. And how important is it?
Super.
Very, very important.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very, very.
That's
got
it.
Anything else?
No,
that's it.
It's about all I had.
Got nothing?
Yeah. It was a quick one, but important.
All right, everybody. Scope of work. That's why we need it. That's why you need it. Put it together. Let's do this. Cheers.
Cheers. Salud.